Welcome to the Observability Podcast. Today we're joined by our good friend Jeremy Rossbach, a Chief Technical Evangelist and Lead Product Marketing Manager at Broadcom. With over 2 decades of experience spanning from hands-on data center management to technical evangelism, Jeremy brings a unique perspective on network observability and infrastructure management. He's been instrumental in establishing Broadcom's leadership and network monitoring solutions, achieving top industry ranks in 4 consecutive years. We explore the evolution of network infrastructure, the impact of AI on networking, and how organizations can prepare their networks for the next wave of innovation. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Well, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Observability Podcast. More exciting than that is our guest today, our special guest. Tim and I have known Jeremy for a very long time, but he's been a friend, and he's also been a great musician, which ties in with our theme here on the podcast. For those of you who don't know, we believe there's 3 things that tie together tightly, and that is observability, Gen AI type discussions, IT type discussions, and then big part of it's rock music and guitar, and then the final piece is sports cars. So we
I see the connection.
The connection is clear. Most
Exactly.
artists or most IT people are actually great artists too. And most of them like a fancy sports cars. But anyways, we have a Ferrari. We have no sponsors, right? So we need money, or otherwise Tim and I can't eat. We just have to do
Exactly.
this. And so I am petitioning, Jeremy, please, because of your pull and especially your massive following, please push. We want Maserati and Ferrari to sponsor us because we are the only podcast to have a death match with every guest. And so today you'll be part of that. You'll be the decider in the death match. So
I love it.
but everybody, without further ado, the great one. His name is Jeremy Rossbach, and he's currently with Broadcom. Has been for quite some time, but he also has some serious, before working for Broadcom, has some serious network chops, building data centers, building huge WAN scenarios for large companies, some of the biggest in the world. But now he's with Broadcom. He's their Chief Technical Evangelist, and you may have seen him at several of the Broadcom conferences, but even beyond that, speaking at the Gartner conferences, Forrester. So you'll see that on his LinkedIn. But he's really pleased to have Jeremy with us today. Jeremy, my friend, thank you. How have you been?
I'm wonderful, and I just want to say congratulations on the launch of the podcast. I definitely know it's a lot of work. And you definitely will be doing a lot of recording to get your queue built up, right? But I think the more people we have talking about this specific topic, which doesn't get enough of the spotlight, the better. So I'm excited to be here.
And Tim, I was gonna, if it's, I didn't mention this to you earlier, but I was gonna ask Jeremy to talk a little bit about his pre-Broadcom life, if that sounds good to you, bud.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, by the way, everybody, Tim and Jeremy play together sometimes. So we have a little surprise for you later. We'll talk later. So, but anyways, Jeremy, before you went to the role that you're in now, and especially you work with, in Broadcom, they have a NetOps division, and that division makes some tools that are actually, I think people are very familiar with, very powerful. In the old days, we used to call them things like Spectrum and PM and even AppNeta, but now you put them all together. And I was hoping you could talk about that a little bit later. But before that, before you came to Broadcom, tell us about what you did, because I think people will be interested. You had some early observability stuff going on.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great story. At points during it, I was wondering what the hell I was doing or thinking, but I was a music major, like a lot of folks know. I just always wanted to be a rock star. I just wanted to play on stage. And like you mentioned, you got to eat. And so I wasn't willing to teach. I just, 19 years old and a guitar in my hand, and all I wanted to do was play. But after taking music theory classes and jazz and piano and all that, I was always very good at drawing, and I would pay the rent with my drawings of babies, puppies, selling to grandmothers and stuff. So I decided to change my major into advertising because I like any way I can take something that's in my head and put it out to the masses, to either hopefully make them happy or, learn from the idea that. So I went into and graduated with a advertising marketing degree, and back then when I graduated, marketing was changing, advertising was changing because of the boom of the internet. Um, so long ago are the days of sitting in a room and brainstorming different ideas and physically drawing them up and all that. It all's gone digital. So still wasn't making a lot of money out of college, and then at the marketing firm I was at, where I was really just the gopher boy, I also had to fix all the computers. So you call corporate and you're like, this person's complaining about something. Can you help me walk through and fix her computer? And eventually that became very easy for me. And I found out the money in IT was really good in the mid 90s, as we all remember. And it was a hell of a lot better than the $19,000 a year I had, stuffing envelopes with pamphlets and stuff. So a buddy of mine, a very close friend who actually is coming over any minute now, we're going to go on a hike, was at a small healthcare company as a LAN administrator, and they had a junior PC tech position open. And I swear to God, John, my friend John, came over with like a white box computer, somebody's name on it. It wasn't Dell or anything. And I literally took it apart and put it back together like 1,700 times to get ready for this interview. And ended up getting it. And junior admin, you work your way up to LAN admin, WAN admin, engineer, architect, etc. So, I've done everything from help desk, sometimes help desk on trading floors at T. Rowe Price, where the pressure can be extremely difficult to manage. And then for the government, Department of Veterans Affairs, ran a research data center for them, moved on to Northrop Grumman, and eventually CA, where I went as computer associate. So before Broadcom bought us in 2018, I ran a handful of data centers for us. They got consolidated into one location, and I got put on a pre-sales team, and then eventually made my way back to marketing, where I now talk about the same tools that I used to use as a customer, talk about the same challenges I used to have when I was the customer. So I really believe that a good marketer needs good technical experience to really make an impact. So I'm very happy for my data center career. Even though it wasn't what I majored in, it was the exact thing I needed to do to have a fruitful marketing career.
And that's always, to me, that stood out, is the fact that you work for Broadcom in a marketing division, and you're certainly an evangelist, a technical evangelist, but you came from technical side. So when you talk about observability, it's different than when an academic, or you've actually done it. So
Yeah. It's funny because, we've all been there. I have dropped more T1s and WAN routers than I care to admit. Sometimes here at home while I'm remoted in, and you're like, shit, you can scratch that if you want. I just locked myself out. Now I got to go drive into the office anyway. So I get the stress you're under as IT. I spent all night trying to get a Dell SAN storage unit back up after one of the RAID controllers died. And you have no idea how stressful that can be. One, it's a SAN, so it's like a file server, so it's holding something important, and you're like, I'm gonna get killed if I can't bring this back up. So the stress of managing data centers is back then it was tough. We talk about the complexity today; it's got to be 50 times more hard. So,
well, another thing before we move on, I thought I'd get your opinion on something as an expert. We keep getting questions after the first podcast about the guitars on Tim's wall behind him. So first off, Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about them? And Jeremy, tell me what you think about it, because we're getting lots of questions.
of course, good.
Yeah.
Tell
So,
us what I'm looking at behind you over your right shoulder.
so the one acoustic directly behind me is a Tech Mini, and below it are two Eddie Van Halen guitars. One of them is the actual Frankenstrat, not the actual one, right? That'd be more than Tony's Ferrari. And the other one is a 5150, which is what he used in the later years. So it's got a more more of a warm type pickup versus the freaking Strat. I don't know how much you can see, but there's a Les Paul hanging on the wall, classic. The other side is a Fender Strat. I know you can't see it, but it's a standard as well. And the other acoustic is another Takamine. I was a fan back in the day. Below it is a Les Paul, and in front of it is a David Gilmour version of his Black Strat. And the other guitar is like a jazz type guitar, the one that gets the drums.
Was the Black Strat, that was Comfortably Numb, the one he's famous for, the Black Strat?
Yeah. The whole early
Okay.
years, yeah. So, and then I also have a Charvel sitting right beside me. That's my go-to guitar.
Nice. Jeremy, Past Judgment, what do you think? For
Oh,
somebody who's showing
there's
off.
only good vibes. I mean, I'm looking at my Takamine right now. It was the second acoustic I owned. The first one was an Ovation, which is on another wall around the corner. My Taylor, I will be buried with, and still play it. It's the only acoustic electric that I play out, because I do play acoustically most of the time out, for the last 16 years, and it still sounds exactly the same as it did when I bought it. And then I have it's a little blurry, but I have my new PRS, Paul Reed Smith, John Mayer Silver Sky version.
Oh, nice.
That I just got, I don't know, maybe a year or 6 months ago, and still love it. Have not taken it out to a gig because I'm worried, but I do love it a lot. So I was learning the guitar solo just the other day to Skid Row's I Remember You on that.
Sweet.
And it sounded great.
Sweet.
Nothing like a good hair band solo to get you going.
And that's a great song too. So, okay. So now I did a little guitar thing. I got another little coming up here in a minute, but before we do, got a question, and Tim might have another question on this too. I've watched all of your presentations that you've done, that you put online, about what you're doing now at Broadcom with NetOps and network observability. And from my time at Broadcom, when I was there, I remember the acquisition of AppNeta, and I also remember how at the time when I left, you guys were taking AppNeta with that network intelligence type product, and then you were sort of marrying it with your operational network product, which is the core NetOps. What I was wanting to ask, here's the reason I'm getting to this. The show is the Observability Podcast, but Tim and I are working on something which you've seen a little bit of. Tim and I are working on something where we extract from the sort of the best of breed products. We extract up certain metrics to create like a scoring system, and then we do generative AI to extract like analysis on that. And so, NetOps combined with the AppNeta is actually a core part of what we're building. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you're doing now. And I know you can't tell everything about what you're going to do, but just in general, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
Well, I think everyone knows I just recorded a podcast for my show, The NetOps Expert, today on the data we recently got back about a sponsored survey that we did of over 500 IT professionals and what we believe is the state of network operations today. And while it's some of the answers are surprising, some are not, some are frustrating to still see, some of this complexity still there. It goes to show that solutions like what you're building and what we're about to talk about are definitely needed. So like when I mentioned my previous career running data centers, it was unlike what it is today. So corporate data center, some branch offices, everyone was in the corporate office and at the branch, and you knew every route, you knew every packet, you knew every device, you knew everything. You were the god. You were the network god. And the fact that the pandemic has moved a lot of data center workloads out to a more public environment where all of us looking at each other right now, we are not in an office doing this recording. Riverside is hosted probably in some Riverside data center or a cloud somewhere. We all are using our home Wi-Fi. We're all using our public ISP to do this recording, and then God knows how many other ISP networks are rerouting. And then finally, up to wherever Riverside is. What does that network path look like? It does not look like it did when I was running data centers, with just minimal hops to get to source and destination. This is many, many dozens and dozens of hops, even unknown hops and routes that ISPs take automatically. So, in order to provide the observability that we need to meet some of the challenges that we saw in the data, like for example, many folks, over 75%, said they're not getting enough data from ISP and cloud providers to understand true network delivery of their customer experiences. Many folks have outsourced a lot of their IT because they claim there's a shortage of skilled workers out there, which shocks me, because in the 90s and 2000s, IT was a place to be, and now we can't find anyone with networking expertise to be the SD-WAN architect or engineer. And so, combined it with the data that we received about the certain challenges in the state of network operations today, I do believe it is our responsibility, you guys as well as us, to simplify what is a very complex day-to-day network operations job. We can't ask them to be SD-WAN architects and understand deep packet inspection of this route and all the packets that they've collected and the ones and zeros inside of the headers and inside the payload. I mean, that's ridiculous. We have to do that for them and just go, here's your answer. Here are the breadcrumbs you followed to get to the answer. So I believe that the solutions that we're building, the combination of our inside the four walls data center observability solution combined with the 2021 purchase of Atneta, which is a competitor to Thousand Eyes. And what that did was allow us to take our 30 years of expertise inside the data center and push it outside to the public cloud providers and ISP providers. That is where most of the customer experiences exist today. So we're really excited. I'll tell you, when we talk about doing what we do inside the four walls of data center and then being able to do it inside of ISP and cloud providers, which no one is a network god of anymore, customers get excited. And I'm sure you see that same excitement. First and foremost, to be able to get enough metrics from an ISP or cloud provider that you're using to deliver your customer experiences is amazing in itself. But then to be able to use those metrics and say, I can prove it's not my problem, it's them, it's Verizon, it's Comcast, it's CenturyLink. Man, I mean, that is many of the reasons why our customers buy the Atneta solution, first and foremost.
You said something about a year ago in one of your presentations that I saw, and I thought it was, really profound, especially when I look back. So I've been, as you know, I've been in IT ops for about 35 years total. And I can look back and remember thinking to myself, let me go back like 25 years. I can remember thinking to myself that the network is just sort of always there to do transport, but the real crux of a customer experience is in the application and understanding the application. And I still believe that's very important. But you said last year in one of your presentations that you felt that now because of the complexities of the cloud, of SD-WAN, of hybrid networks, because of those complexities, you actually felt that the real key to managing observability or managing customer experience because of observability sits with the network. And I thought that was brilliant because, after my life of spending so much time, I've been with both, but I spent a lot of time chasing application issues. And to hear you say, well, if you really want to control customer experience, you better understand your network better.
They say, and I believe it probably for the most part, apps don't really go down that much anymore. It's the delivery mechanism that may be spotty or completely down. I'll give you two examples, real world examples, and you tell me what the common denominator is. And you've heard the story before. My kid, I've replaced 4 of her bumpers on her car. The 5th one's probably coming. I'm going to tell her to call State Farm and handle it herself. But as many folks know, especially here in the U.S., that State Farm claims agent will probably be at home. They will not be in the office. They will not be near the 4 walls of their data center where that claims app is hosted, because that claims app is probably hosted in Azure or Google. So their network path, God knows what it looks like from their home to get to the claims app in Google, over their home Wi-Fi, over their ISP, et cetera, et cetera. It is not a network path that can be seen or controlled by her IT department. So if my kid calls and says, I need to put in a claim, but unfortunately the customer service rep says, I seem to be having internet issues, I can't get to the claims app, this is the worst thing that could be said and the worst thing that could happen to any IT department or business, because State Farm's IT department, and I'm just saying State Farm here, not throwing anybody under the bus, they're responsible for the entire network delivery path, whether they own it or not. You know why? Because it's their brand, it's their name, it's their reputation tied to my kid calling, but being upset that she couldn't get taken care of right away. And that is the reality, is that we are responsible for the entire network delivery path of what is the new internet, or the new enterprise network, which is the internet. Let me give you one more example, and by all means, you can cut this up because I know I'm talking a lot. I had just interviewed the head of, her name is Julian Guthrie. Yeah, so she started an AI company called Alfie, and what it does is helps businesses communicate in a more regulatory and compliant way. So writing papers, writing documents, government compliance issues, just writing emails to customers. It looks at everything you're doing to make sure you're on the up and up. We don't want to use this offensive word. We don't want to use this derogatory meaning. This is confidential. Take it out of that email or paper that you're writing. Well, I wanted to ask her, what does that use case look like from a technical standpoint? What are the technical requirements to make this work? And she's like, well, I'm doing it now. And she's at home. She was at home in the Midwest giving me a demo, using her home Wi-Fi, using ISP networks, and then finally wherever the Alfie demo that she was using was installed, maybe in a data center, maybe in her company's headquarters. It doesn't matter, because in order to get to it, to get the real-time answers it was giving her, or the real-time recommendations, responses she was getting as she was typing, that is all data being pushed over public networks. So what if she was giving me a demo and I was some investor and it stopped working? And to be honest, when she was showing me, it wasn't responding to her. It kind of got stuck with the hourglass of death kind of thing, just for 5 or 6 seconds. But there was latency there. I mean, so what if it wasn't working for her and she was giving me a demo? She would call her IT department and saying, what the hell's happening? I'm trying to give a demo to an investor. And they're going to be like, you're not on our network. How the hell can we help you? You're not using our network. And that's what we're dealing with today. You insert any technology, AI, SD-WAN, I don't care. You're still going to ride a network to get it done. We don't book a trip, say it's a road trip, and not pull out our phone and look at GPS to understand the route we're going to take to be most efficient. We do that when we travel. We should be doing that when we deliver data and customer experiences over the same highway we call the enterprise network. Damn, I should write this down. This is some good stuff.
This is good stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
You can catch it recorded.
Exactly. And I just love that, all these disruptive technologies keep popping up. But the essence of it all is that without a resilient network, you will never see the success you've paid for. You'll get success, but maybe it's the reason why I recently asked a Gen AI image creator to give me 2 guys sitting on a sofa with hoodies on and sunglasses and looking all badass. And one guy looked like he got in a car accident, and the other guy had 8 fingers on his hand. And that is just bad data, or missing data, or dropped data, or network latency, or maybe I just used a cheapo free image generator. But either way, I wouldn't make my dinner tonight with 8 out of the 10 ingredients and expect it to taste the same as 10 out of the 10 ingredients. It's just that simple.
So last time you and I talked, we brought music into technology, and that's where we were at. And you made a good point, because my background is software development. So I always look at things as applications, right? Crap's broke, it's application, right? But you're right, 90% of the time today, our apps, including a lot that we're doing, is no longer on the servers or in the cloud. There's no infrastructure. And then you talk about latency, and then you talk about having issues because of distance, time, weather, whatever, right? Because we're at home, I'm dealing with AT&T, they're a pain in the butt. How often do you see customers having problems that are not really, to your point, that are abnormal than what we're used to? Like you're talking about your GPS, your TV. Obviously, nobody's calling you up for your TV, right? But if you think about that concert, right? If I'm using Wi-Fi, I need to make sure it's working. At the ball game, right? Where we were one time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how often do you see it different than the way it used to be as far as things?
Well, I think the use cases are really fun and exciting now. And it's all because we pushed everything outside the data center. So, for example, I know you and I know we recently worked with a very famous New York baseball team. And a lot of customers were complaining. Unfortunately, they looked at this after customers brought it to their attention. But either way, they said a lot of customers were complaining about the first base side or the third base side had not as good Wi-Fi signal as the other. And yeah, to be able to bring in a solution like ours and to instantly say, well, I'm getting the data I need to give you the answer, and the answer is whatever, bad channel or congested, whatever the case may be. Another example is Fidelity Information Services. They are basically a cloud provider for financial data for their financial customers, like myself. I'm a customer of Fidelity. And so when their customers try to access the data inside their data centers, one person complained for many, many months that things were slow or spotty or whatever. And of course, the network team is looking at every nook and cranny to figure out what it might be, because the customer is always right. And then we brought in the AppNeta side of the solution, installed what we call a monitoring point at the customer who was complaining, their edge of their network, and immediately found a misconfigured F5 load balancer. One, the use case is looking into someone else's data center you have no right to be looking into. And two, you find a misconfigured F5 load balancer. And three, it took minutes. The use cases are different. They're a little more complex. There's a hell of a lot more moving parts. But to be able to sift through all the quote unquote noise of that outage or complaint is always a lot of fun with our customers.
Yeah. No more of those. Well, it's just you. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
So,
Well, the harvesting of this kind of data, I think is really important that we talk about a little bit too, because, and of course, Broadcom has different ways to harvest data. They even have products that are aggregators, but I did want to point out how powerful the NetOps space is for harvesting data. And I'll show one thing here real quick, shameless plug. This is what Tim and I work on. Some people know a little bit about this, to show the complete lack of artistic ability that I have.
I thought it was really cool.
I'm sitting here. Think about it this way. We said that there's a affinity, right, between IT folks and musicians, or even artists, right? And so we just listened to Jeremy, who has been an incredible artistic guitar player, which we're going to talk about in a minute. He's also early in his career, in his life, did amazing drawings. All right. So he's an artistic dude who ends up being a hellacious IT guy. Then we have Tim, and most people know about Tim as hardcore, his chops in the world of IT and networks and applications, sort of all of it, right? But many people don't know that Tim actually has a music degree. Like, he started off extremely artistic and creative, yet he ends up making his living in IT. So that's why we think there's an affinity there. So what I'm attempting to do now is show you the only piece of artistic creation that I have ever had. And as bad as it is, I'm going to make the the connection there. So don't make too much fun. But anyways, this is it. So most people know this. I actually have a point here, so it won't take me 10 more seconds. We believe that the thing that Tim and I work on, we believe that we try to fill these buckets of what we call radiation or dirty deductions of performance. We try to fill these buckets to create an index, like a score, if you will. And the reason I wanted to point this out was because we have a customer now that is using of our product, our AI product. We have a customer now who subscribes to 13 buckets, and he is actually filling, get this, 9 of the 13 buckets with data just from Broadcom NetOps Suite. And that's huge. Now, we have other customers that are doing it with other products and filling all 13 buckets, but we have one customer who can fill 9 of these buckets with just the NetOps Suite. So anyways, I think that's amazing, and I think it's also a bit of a testament to what what Jeremy and the NetOps team, what they're building. So I don't know, Jeremy, have I showed you like the 13 buckets or?
Yeah. I liked that graphic. I really did. It was kind of spooky and scary, but people should be a little worried about the complexity today.
Well, it's funny. Tony actually brought it out in Halloween, and it was actually green. So
It does look a little.
It's true. I suppose it's spooky. Yeah.
When I was speaking on a panel at the AI Networking Summit sponsored by ONUG in October a few weeks ago, I was on this panel where everyone was talking AI, and I get AI is all exciting and there's a lot of hype around it. But I wanted to bring people back to what's most important, which is what you just said, the data. And I said, listen, the bottom line is that if you're not looking for packet loss, your AI engine isn't looking for it either. So, you expect bad recommendations from your AI engine when you're not giving it the data it needs to give you what you want. So data, the more you have, the better.
Man, well said.
And then what you can do with that data with embedded algorithms and advanced intelligence that these vendors like us should be delivering in their solutions is the key. That's where we help you simplify the noise, which is all that data you collected. So
Well said. And by the way, I noticed I was able to use in your NetOps, one of the products I was able to use, it got sort of a little, I guess you'd call it like a right click function where I can pull up like a bunch of statistics on something and I can instantly send it to like Gemini, I think. So man, that's awesome.
yeah. We're very proud, and it doesn't get talked about as much as I'd like, but we were prior CA, so we all know we're multi-vendor. We had to be multi-vendor. We weren't selling hardware at the time, so we wanted to support as many vendors as we could for our customers who support their data centers. I forgot my point. Hold on, this happens a lot as I get older.
I wasn't listening.
data.
That's hysterical. Oh, that's so funny. I don't remember, but I already made my point with the packet loss. So
You got it.
that's so funny.
That is so good. All right, I got a good one. Okay, I got a good one. All right. I have a question to ask you. And I think I said something earlier about I hope someday I could just have a moment of your life. And I don't know if you remember the movie. Well, of course you do. Yeah, we all know this. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Great.
Now, when you think of Ferris Bueller's Day Off toward the ending, do you remember where he jumps up on the stage of some big parade and takes over the microphone and starts singing, "Well, shake it up, baby"? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to know how in the world you end up doing that at this event. So let me show something here. I'd like to have a little background story. So I had this on my LinkedIn. I made a comment about you and all that kind of stuff. But this is what I saw that I made a comment on. How do you jump up on stage and just take over the microphone in New York City in an alley band?
On the roof of a building.
On the rooftop?
Yeah,
talk
that's
about that.
awesome
What
too.
happened there?
Yeah.
What is this?
You know what? It's funny because this coincides with what you were just talking about, and I don't want to speak for Tim.
You could speak for Tim.
Go for it. Everybody else does.
About musicians and tech and how it kind of converges sometimes. So what does it take to get up there without thinking anymore? For me, it took an insatiable appetite to be seen and heard on stage. And I don't need to get into the background of it, but I always say there's no better high than to be on stage. To be able to, again, back to why I went into advertising and marketing, to be able to take something in your head, an idea, and give it to the masses, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they love it and feel better about themselves because of it. Yeah, to control a room like that and bring happiness is intoxicating, honestly. It really is. And the more you do it, the more you learn how. I recently learned and mental health is a very big thing for me. I recently learned to stop playing for the audience and just play for me. So not worry about what the audience was thinking, if there was a football game on or whatever. You get those gigs sometimes where it's not that you're playing bad, it's just other circumstances are grabbing other people's focus. So to be able to not play for the audience, but just really play for myself and know I did a good job and walking away without worrying, oh, what did this person think, or they didn't like it, or the audience used to dictate my mood. And And that doesn't happen anymore, which then allows for the room and the call it bravery, whatever, to jump up on stage knowing I want to do this. They asked me, so I'm going to do it because it's going to make me happy. And then luckily everyone else in the audience were happy too because of it. But yeah, I think the need, well, it was a different, so as a musician, then you look at your crowd, you try to pick something that almost everyone would know. There were ladies in the audience. I will be very transparent. I know that song does well with the ladies.
With the ladies.
Yeah, but
no shame in that. No shame in that. No.
But I will say, that as a musician and many folks who take or look at a career that they are put in front of many people, a lot of the times it has to do with the fact that they were missing that somewhere in their life. So they find a talent, they're good at it, and then they realize that talent can kind of fill some holes. Many musicians and comedians, are like that. So luckily, it does drive you to be better. And then luckily for me, I was able to overcome, playing music for me and not just playing it for the masses.
Dude, is it true that you were a contestant on The Voice?
Yep, season 2.
Dude.
I don't even know what year it was. My kids were young. And as I was watching season 1, playing every weekend in bars, I'm like, I play that song, I play that song, I play that song better. I was early 40s, and yeah, another thing that I did and said, I'm gonna do this for me. I'm gonna prove that I have the guts to do it. I stood in line with I think 18,000 other people at maybe the Javits Center, and got herded through like cows getting herded over the farm, and eventually you get dwindled down to just a very small group that you're in. And I had my song, and I knew I was gonna nail it. And then they came up and said, all right, you only have 30 seconds. You don't get the whole song anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so like the 10 of us that are left in my group, all freak out a little bit. And I ended up, you end up going to like the suites, and the assistants are there. You don't see any of the stars of the show. I nailed my song. I know I did. And, they passed. I don't think my disgruntled, even though it's been probably 15 years now, my disgruntled side of me still believes that you need a hook. Like they didn't want some 40-year-old dad. They wanted someone with a hook, a really sad story,
Yeah.
To kind of, because it is reality TV, which is sad. It does make me sad, but I just wanted to prove I did it, and I did it, and I continue playing, and their loss.
Well, you're a legend, dude. I mean, there's just so much there. There's what I say. The young people say there's so much there. Well, that's you. So much to talk about, but I know Tim's excited because we've reached the point in the podcast where we get down to what we call serious business. And so it's time to get serious. So let me share something here. It's important that, we started off with the last podcast with the deserted island with Sheenam, and she really shocked Tim and I a little bit with her answers, right? So, you're stranded. I don't want to be like too dark and say that there's no chance that you'll ever be found, right, Jeremy? But you are stranded, and you got to plan for that. And so you get to take 3 things to the deserted island, possibly for the rest of your life, that you consider comforting, so that at least you have something. So you can see what Sheenam chose there as her comfort island. I mean, comfort items. So we would like to ask you the same. I do want to point out that on item number 2, we let her get past because she was the first player ever, but you cannot pick a way to get off the island. We're not playing
I like
that.
that she picked electric bass. I had no idea.
Yeah, she said she wanted something to play because she knows how to play it, and it would keep her mind occupied.
Yeah.
So go ahead and think about it a minute, because it is the rest of your life, right? So, but we wanted,
and you
also
can't have another human living, breathing something with you.
Certainly sounds like a nice choice, but no, this is inanimate object, but they would bring you comfort.
Yep.
And then I thought you'd get a kick out of in the next podcast, Dan Elswick is going to be on.
I saw that.
who knows
Yeah,
what
I
Dan's
saw
gonna
that.
pick,
And
right?
can you please invite me when you have Adam Duritz on from Counting Crows? I'd love to be
Sure.
a fly
Yeah.
on the wall.
Yeah, I put the next episode's musical guests on because I called all 4 of them,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't, like, call me back, but I'm taking that as, yes, they're
Yeah,
interested.
yeah.
Go
Please.
ahead and put them in. Yeah.
Can I have your booking agent, by the way?
Sure,
Because you get a
sure.
hell of a lot more exciting
Yeah.
guests.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Uh,
it's Tim.
Well,
Tim, so you
listen,
know, yeah.
of course, it's going to be my Taylor. Tim and I talked
Whoa,
about this before
your
when it comes
Taylor. Hold on
to
a second
my
now.
Taylor guitar.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought you were taking somebody who was gonna make suits for you.
No,
Okay.
me and Taylor Swift are going to go on the island. No, my
Yeah.
Taylor guitar, because we talked about the impact music can have on mental health. And
Sure.
I can imagine being on a desert island by yourself.
Mm.
Your mental health is probably not going to be the best.
That's right. That's right.
If I could get it there,
Okay.
and I'm very disappointed in myself that I haven't done this yet, is to bring my piano and learn how to play piano really well.
Nice.
Sheenam also wanted to bring a piano.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got to figure out how to survive. So I would probably bring some type of book or something, something that could keep my mind occupied, or maybe it was like a meditation book or something where it would keep me doing activities
Oh, okay.
every
There you
day.
go.
But a book,
Yeah, yeah. I'll put meditation. That sounds interesting.
yeah, music,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
music and mental health, which,
Okay.
There you go.
yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Very
Perfect.
cool. So now
Yeah.
you're up there now with her. It's
Nice.
interesting to me that you didn't pick like a comfort food where she did. So that's interesting. But
Yeah.
everything you did, like, it's very artistic and very thoughtful.
Who needs food
so-
when you're
Yeah, you're gonna eat
when you're
coconuts.
when you're
so-
transcending in other
Yeah.
galaxies
Exactly.
out there?
But anyways, so now let's move on to your death match. This will be the final thing for the day before a little surprise from Tim that he's going to tell us about. So your death match is between what I would term, and I've removed all markings you wouldn't be able to know from markings. You may know the cars, but I've lined up 2 of the most not classic, but intimidating cars from each that you could still drive daily. So not like something crazy. So here's your death match, and let me set it up for you. The scene is this. It's a Saturday night, and you have plans to go to, I'm sorry, let's say it's a Sunday. No, it's better. Let's make it Sunday afternoon. And you have plans to go to a Ravens game there in Baltimore, followed by cruising around the harbor so everybody can see you. And you get to pick one of these 2 cars to do that day. What is the car you will choose, right or left?
This is so funny because I don't think you're going to expect this. One, I would never drive either of those cars down to downtown Baltimore, and I can say that because I grew up there. But if I wanted to show off and not worried about getting, in trouble, I'm not a big car guy, and I'm thinking differently than maybe most guests would. I would probably pick the one on the left, the white one, because it doesn't look to me as luxurious as the one on the right. So I may not get carjacked
Gotcha.
with the white one.
I like
Gotcha.
that.
It's
Yeah.
a survival choice.
It really is. And you haven't
Gotcha.
seen the garage I park in when I go to the Ravens games. There's no room for error. I mean, really. The columns are right next to your car, and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no room for error. But I love
you like-
that
like
was
this
fun. I
one?
love that. Yes.
That one there? Okay.
Yeah. What are they again?
Damn it.
Oh, wow, the Ferrari again.
So if you notice behind Tony, he's a Maserati guy.
I see.
Yeah, gummit. Okay, well, I love Ferrari. If you're watching, we would love
Uh-huh.
Ferrari to come
Now
on and talk
listen, if
about-
you told me to go down Hollywood Boulevard and try to get as many onlookers as I can, I would pick the Maserati.
Thank you. Thank
But in downtown Baltimore, you want to be at least conspicuous as you can.
Got
So.
it. Hey, Tim, from now on, let's do the scene for everybody that is, You've got a sunny day in California.
There you go.
Which would you drive?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
perfect.
stick with what we've got and we record them. So at the end of the year, next year, we're going to tally up and predict and have a winner.
Nice. I thought one of them was an Uber, so I wouldn't have to worry about getting my car stolen in Baltimore.
I'm definitely, Tim, I've definitely introduced too much complexity with the complex scenes. I need to just say you've got a beautiful day in California. Which will you drive? Okay.
That's okay. Isn't it funny though how we look at things differently? Like I'm not a car guy, but I did think there's no way in hell I wouldn't get carjacked if I drove one of those down in Baltimore. So, which is the least of the two that I might not get carjacked?
Which one's going to keep me from getting
Exactly.
killed?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the big surprise, Tim?
Yeah, Jim, please.
All right. So instead of me playing at the end of this podcast, we're going to have Jeremy to play for us at the end of this podcast. So on the last podcast, I did a bluesy version of David Gilmour. You can do anything you want to do. Now, I'm not a singer, so it sounds better if I play instrumental.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I know 1,000 songs on the acoustic. The electric, I'm trying to...
Whoa. Yes, I love feedback.
Can you
That
hear
works.
that?
Oh,
Can you hear
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me there, but... You remember that song, right?
Whoa.
A little white snake.